up, guys? It's Chelsea Coleman here of Dauntless Performance Horses, and we are back with one of your favorites. I say that about every horse, but you guys love all the horses we have, which we also love. But today we are back with, like I said, one of your favorites, Neon. Today what we're going to do is toss the Western saddle on him and send him out and lunge him a little bit in the Western saddle. Now, we have done this off camera before, and he does kind of hog up and get a little bit more spicy. So we want to show you, we want to be able to show you guys that. So if you encounter this kind of situation with a horse you have that's unstarted, you realize it's not that big of a deal. So my theory behind the bucking and the hogging and the rearing and all that silly stuff is to just understand that that doesn't come from a malicious place. In 90% of horses, it doesn't come from a malicious place. It comes from a lack of understanding and a lack of knowledge. So that's what we are going to address today, and we will see what we have. So let's get into it.
Our champion now, Chelsea Coleman, Dauntless Courage.
Okay, so I'm going to start just like normal with tossing on the saddle pad. I'm going to give him a rub down first. Now, as just a little refresher, Neon is, I believe, almost 8 years old, and he has never been ridden. He is a registered Basque curly horse, and his mom is very excited to get started working with him. She bought him from the breeder, so we know where he came from, we know what's happened in his life, which is awesome. He came from a barn that we think maybe wasn't working him like they were supposed to, just because he's a little bit, he's not as far along as we would like to see for being in training for a couple years, but he is a great horse, super smart, and really sweet. That saddle is heavier than I remember. Good boy. So that is what we have with us today is in Mr. Neon, is an unstarted, unsaddled, or unbroke, I should say, 8-year-old horse. Now some characteristics that are specific to Neon are that he is very, very intelligent. As you know, those of you who have watched a couple of his episodes have seen, he's very smart. He's an easy horse to work with because he tells you when he understands and he tells you when he doesn't. So we have been able to showcase some of that in our videos. But that is one of our favorite things about him, and that is the fact that he is so intelligent, he's so smart, he's so sweet, and he's going to be a really great horse. He already is, but he is on the trajectory path to be a phenomenal sport horse. Now, I will tell you that's very characteristic of him to walk forward while being girthed. Good boy. For a lot of horses, they don't love that feeling, which is completely normal. So when he gets a little anxious with that, I just create a physical boundary. Now, this is what he does when I know he's uncomfortable. So I'm allowing him to have some space away from me because what he's doing is trying to move away so he doesn't step on me. But I'm just gonna go ahead and make sure I get this secured. And I'm gonna open this saddle rack a little bit more. I'm gonna walk him this way. I'm gonna unhook him. Now, we've discussed this in previous videos with previous horses. I'm gonna let him go, and I'm not gonna make a big deal like, you know, let him go and run away as if he were to do something stupid. I am, however, going to push him off this rack. So I'm not going to right off the bat say, all right, go move your feet, because what I want him to do, being a smart horse that he is, I want him to understand that we want urgency, but I want him to think before he does things. So for me to get out here and say, okay, I know he's probably going to hog up, I'm going to go ahead and chase it out of him, that doesn't give him the opportunity to decide he doesn't need to do that, if that makes sense. So I'm going to allow him to show me that he's changing and becoming more comfortable, or allow him to tell me that he is uncomfortable. So here, he's a very lazy horse, so this tells me he is uncomfortable, and he's showing me that by saying, hey, I need to move, I feel like I need to go. Now this is the alternative to him bucking and rearing. If I smacked the whip on the ground right now and said go faster, he would buck and rear and do stupid, he wouldn't rear, but he would do stupid stuff. So I'm gonna let him hang out here. This is called processing, right? This is him going, okay, I'm uncomfortable, I don't know what to do, I'm gonna move my feet because I'm uncomfortable. And you can, as you remember before, this horse joins up beautifully. He had a really cool side join up. He's very, very studdish acting, not in a bad way, but in an intelligence way. So he's very studdish in the field. They play stallion games all the time. He was gelded very late. He was not gelded until he was 5 or 6. Good boy. Good, and I'm gonna ask for the canter. Good boy. Good boy. And so you can see there, a little bit of humpy backed. Humpy backed essentially means exactly how it sounds. He just humps his back up a little bit and gets excited. Now, he did switch his lead behind, so I'm gonna try and see if I can't get him to switch that back. There, good boy. Good boy. Good boy. And so you can see the level of nervousness has gone up since we worked him without a saddle and with the English saddle. He's a lot more insecure with this saddle, and he tends to keep more distance. Now, in my opinion, this horse is very friendly, but he gets worried about being too on top of you when he's moving. So I think, personally, my interpretation of that is he gets weird feelings at certain times. I would like to kind of explain it analogy-wise like a cold chill. You never know when it's going to happen. It just does, but it's a physical response. He has a little bit of that. I'm not saying the horse gets cold chills, but he doesn't feel comfortable in this saddle. He doesn't feel comfortable standing super close to me if he knows I'm going to ask something else of him, because he has a tendency to overreact in nervousness. And because of that, he can interfere with me physically, which he does not want to do. Good boy, Neon. And you can see this horse has a beautiful trot, a beautiful frame, beautiful carriage. There was a little opposition there, totally fine. Canter. Good boy. Beautiful canter. And he swapped his leads again, so I'm just gonna, good boy, and ho. And what a stop you have on you. And there we go, the side, there, good boy. Good boy. Good, so there you could see, he started with the side join up, and then he finished turning to me. Super cool. So now, to finish up, what we're gonna do is this way. He doesn't love going this direction. We're gonna do just a couple direction changes. Good boy. Good job. This horse will make one heck of a Liberty horse one day. Liberty is just free moving. No one's on their back. Good boy. Now I'm going to try and get him to do something here. Good boy. Good boy. Very good. So there I stopped him with a physical cue, not a verbal cue. I'm going to do the same thing. Good boy. So what you didn't see in our previous workout that I wish we had evidence of because it was really cool. I started to add in verbal cues. So I don't typically use verbal cues with him because he's so sharp off of physical aid, like visual. If he sees me bring the pressure down physically, he catches on. But I started adding direction change to that. So with direction change, it kind of mutes, we'll say, a little bit of your physical cues because you're adding extra things in. So what ended up happening was I had sent him around a couple different directions. Then I tried to stop him with no verbal cue and just let the pressure go. And he would stop, turn to me, look at me for a second, and then start pawing. And I looked and I said, he's not sure what I mean since I added the direction change in. So I sent him around again and I said to the person standing outside of the pen, now I'm going to tell him whoa and see if that makes a difference. So I sent him out, I said whoa, and he stopped and marched right to me. So this horse is so smart. When I added in another cue and he was confused, to tell me he was confused, he stopped, he looked at me and he started to paw. Then when I answered his question with an answer, he responded immediately, which was super cool to see. I don't think we got any of that on film. I will see if we did. If we did, obviously I will add that in. But long story short, this horse is incredibly intelligent. So, all right. So now, good boy. So what he spooked at over there is we've got our goats that have made a entry point, as you can tell. And they're just sleeping on the other side of the wall, and he heard them get up and that scared him. So that's what that little jump was. So this is kind of this is a part that a lot of people forget when they're dealing with horses that are unstarted. They want to toss the saddle on, great, work them, great, and then they forget about this part. So this is just as important, if not more important, than saddling. The reason why this is important is because a lot of horses get accustomed to, okay, when I'm done working, I'm done, and they stop having manners on this part. This is where most people get run over, stepped on, pushed through, rolled over, whatever. So it's important to not to finish your session and your training session, your engagement with them until they are completely untacked and you're walking them to their stall. For me, my horses, I require respect from them all the time, and it's not a hard requirement. They willingly give that to me. But ground tying is another thing. You know, you get in an emergency and you've got to run the tack off of them really quick. It's really easy if you've got a horse that'll stand tied. Now, ground tying is exactly what it sounds like. You drop the rope to the ground and you essentially tie them to the ground. That's how he views it. Obviously, we know that you can't literally tie a horse to the ground unless you have something on the ground anchoring them there. But, good boy. He's also quite protective of the right side of his body. If I go and do something, he wants to move with me almost instantly, which is not a bad thing. It's just something to keep aware of. But, good boy. All right, so I'm happy to report that I think you guys will be seeing us hop on his back in the next few days. He's coming along very, very nicely. Thank you for watching. Remember, it doesn't matter where you come from. It only matters where you're going, and we'll see you next time.